Idi Amin was a Ugandan military officer and dictator who ruled Uganda from 1971 to 1979. Amin was born in 1925 to Amin Dada and Asa Ate. His father was a poor Muslim and Kawaka farmer who belonged to one of the smallest ethnic groups in Uganda. His mother was a practicing Luba, meaning she practiced witchcraft. She left his father, taking him with her to live near the camp of the King's African Rifles, a British colonial under her quote, magical healing powers. Amin's mother was seen as a powerful person in the community, but soon lost respect after she was unable to heal an elderly woman and was sent to the barracks, leaving Amin to raise himself. He soon joined the British colonial army as a cook and quickly rose through the ranks due to his physical prowess and loyalty. After Uganda gained independence in 1962, Amin continued to climb with the Ugandan military, becoming an army commander under Prime Minister Milton Obote. In January 1971, while Obote was out of the country, Amin seized power in a military coup. At first, he was welcomed by many Ugandans and even some international leaders. However, his regime soon turned brutal. He expelled Uganda's Asian community of around 35,000 people in 1972, leading to economic collapse. He was also responsible for the estimated 300,000 deaths during his reign due to political repression, ethnic persecution, and human rights abuses. Amin created an interesting international image for himself as he never hid his sadism, often bragged about keeping the heads of political enemies in his freezer, stated that human flesh was too salty for his taste, and the conqueror of the British Empire. His erratic and often insane behavior and policies isolated Uganda internationally, furthering them into an economic crisis. And finally, in 1979, he was over after an attempt to annex part of Tanzania. Eventually, he fled to Saudi Arabia until his death in 2003.
Throughout Idi Amin's reign, he committed multiple war crimes against humanity in 3 phases. The first was targeting armed forces and the police, then mass killings, and finally ethnic purges carried out by the military forces that he created. His first wave of crimes consisted of the barrack massacres in 1972, 1973, and 1977. These targeted soldiers from the Akali and Langi tribes, and an approximation of 5,000 to 6,000 Ugandans were killed. Due to the mass killing of Ugandans, he rebuilt the army, adding 15,000 new military members to his army. During his second phase of crime, his soldiers were given permission to detain anyone that was culpable for sedition, or in simpler terms, anyone that might be wanted for speaking out against the government or anything bad about Idi Amin. They would later hold them for prolonged periods of time without telling them why they were being detained. Idi Amin also ordered an execution of all original officer corps and half of the enlisted personnel, all of which did nothing wrong. In his third wave of crimes, he ordered attacks against entire categories of civilians. This includes judges, teachers, students, professors, and religious leaders. Soldiers were found executed in Dumba at the Tanzanian-Uganda border, and over 300,000 people were found dead at the hands of Idi Amin. He claimed that they simply disappeared on their own. Amin became one of the most notorious third world leaders due to institutionalized random violence and bizarre brutality that terrorized hundreds of thousands of innocent people.
By the mid-1970s, Amin's Uganda had become a pariah state, and the world could no longer ignore the atrocities unfolding there. A pivotal moment came in 1977 at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in London. There, Amin's regime faced strong condemnation for its human rights abuses, especially the mass killings, disappearances, and ethnic persecution, leading Great Britain to apply pressure. Amin, who had previously attended such meetings, was barred from the London summit, signaling his growing international isolation. Amin also attempted to divert attention from his crimes by posturing on the global stage. He notably offered to send Ugandan troops to fight Israel after the United Nations refused to pose sanctions on Israel over its occupation of Palestinian territories. In a 1975 UN meeting, Amin took the floor as the Organization of African Unity president to condemn Israel's actions. He stated,
"We don't want destruction of Israel, but we want peace in the Middle East. But if they don't want peace, what can we do? You do. If at all I wanted to beat you with the state, your duty is to defend yourself. The Arabs are to defend, and also they are to gain their territory by all means, peaceful means or by fighting, because the territory was taken from them by the force of arms."
Amin used his stance to present himself as a champion of Muslim and African solidarity, but in truth, it was a distraction from the horrors within Uganda. His vocal anti-Zionism and public praise for Adolf Hitler revealed his violent worldview. To truly grasp the depth of Amin's crimes, it is important to understand how they align with the 10 stages of genocide, a framework developed by genocide scholar Gregory Stanton. First came classification and symbolization, as Amin targeted ethnic groups like the Akalai and the Langi. Dehumanization followed as he referred to his enemies as subhuman and blamed Uganda's problems on them. Organization occurred through his military and secret police, which carried out brutal torture and assassinations. The extermination was a tragic reality. Mass graves testified to the systematic killings of over 300,000 people. Finally, denial persists to this day. Amin never stood trial, and some still glorify his regime. Idi Amin never faced trial for his crimes due to the combination of political asylum, international inaction, and the absence of a functioning international justice system at the time. After being overthrown in 1979, Amin first fled to Libya and then Saudi Arabia, where he lived in exile until his death in 2003. Despite the magnitude of his atrocities, there was no international court with jurisdiction or political will to prosecute him. The International Criminal Court, or the ICC, would not be established until 2002, and even then it lacked retroactive power. His evasion of justice highlights a critical failure in the global human rights framework. Without enforceable legal mechanisms and consistent commitment, even the most egregious violation can go unpunished. The international community's response to these crimes against humanity was largely limited and delayed, due to Cold War politics and the lack of formal international mechanisms for prosecuting such crimes during the 1970s. Human rights organizations like Amnesty International raised alarm about the widespread torture, disappearance, and mass killing that estimated at over 300,000 deaths. Foreign governments mostly responded with diplomatic isolation. Western nations, including Britain and Israel, which had once supported Amin early in his rule, eventually due to his erratic behavior and violent repression. Despite this global outrage, Amin was never tried or punished. After his overthrow in 1979 by Uganda exiles and Tanzanian forces, he fled to Saudi Arabia, where he lived in exile until his death in 2003. Escaping international justice in Uganda, his terror still exists, not only in memory but also in physical spaces that once held victims and stories, places like the Mumbai and awareness of torture and execution now stand as reminders of his brutal role. In recent years, many of these sites have drawn local and international tourists. Once a horrific site turns into a place for rest scholars, visitors are often guided through rusted cells, sand floors, and holding chambers where thousands suffered. The transformation of these spaces into historical sites reflects Uganda's ongoing process of remembrance and healing. While no formal truth and reconciliation was ever held for these victims, the preservation of these sites contributes to public awareness and helps ensure that the atrocities committed are never forgotten. Idi Amin's regime in Uganda was marked by widespread human rights abuses, including extrajudicial killings, torture, and the expulsion of entire ethnic groups, leading to the deaths of an estimated 300,000 people. His rule was characterized by militarized terror, targeting political opponents, ethnic minorities, and intellectuals. Despite the gravity of these crimes, Amin never faced legal accountability, largely due to Cold War geopolitics and international reluctance to intervene. After his ousting, he lived in exile in Saudi Arabia until his death in 2003, shielded from prosecution. This highlights a failure in the international system to hold dictators accountable, especially when political interests overshadow human rights concerns. Amin's case serves as a stark reminder of the importance of international mechanisms to ensure accountability for state-led atrocities.